I am making my prediction now. It is a bold prediction.
This lawsuit is not even going to survive a motion to dismiss.
Well, I was completely wrong. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. I've got a kid sleeping in the back yet again. This is a follow-up on Alan Dershowitz's defamation lawsuit against CNN. I did a vlog on this about 9 months ago, and this was a defamation vlog that Alan Dershowitz filed against CNN that related to his defending Donald Trump in the impeachment. The first impeachment, that is, not the second impeachment. For those of you who may not know, Alan Dershowitz was widely considered to be one of the greatest lawyers in American history, a constitutional scholar. He successfully defended O.J. Simpson, but all that love for Alan Dershowitz died the day he had the audacity to defend Donald Trump in his first impeachment before the Senate. I did multiple videos on the impeachment. Alan Dershowitz's defense of Donald Trump was pretty simple. The first line of defense was that the impeachment act, the act for which the president would be impeached, had to be, if not criminal, at the very least criminal in nature. That was the essence of Alan Dershowitz's argument in the impeachment, and it was a successful argument because Donald Trump was subsequently acquitted. But in response to a question asked to him by Devin Nunes, Alan Dershowitz said something that would become the basis of CNN's alleged defamatory statements against him. In response to that question, Alan Dershowitz said something along the lines of, if a president does something in the hopes of getting reelected, that itself could not be an impeachable offense, and CNN went wild, only quoting half of what Alan Dershowitz said, and I'm going to show you the original clip, and then we're going to talk about CNN's coverage of that half statement that he made.
The only thing that would make a quid pro quo unlawful is if the quo were in some way illegal. Now, we talked about motive. There are three possible motives that a political figure can have. One, a motive in the public interest, and the Israel argument would be in the public interest. The second is in his own political interest, and the third, which hasn't been mentioned, would be in his own financial interest, his own pure financial interest, just putting money in the bank. I want to focus on the second one for just one moment. Every public official that I know believes that his election is in the public interest. And mostly you're right. Your election is in the public interest. And if a president does something which he believes will help him get elected in the public interest, that cannot be the kind of quid pro quo that results in impeachment.
So Alan Dershowitz's position is pretty clear when played in its entirety, when played in context. When played out of context or not played in its entirety, it allowed CNN to paint Alan Dershowitz as a constitutional madman who had absolutely lost his legal mind. CNN went on to allege that Alan Dershowitz had argued that the president, if he thought he was doing something in the hopes of getting reelected, could do absolutely anything, even something illegal, and it would not be an impeachable offense. And that led to Alan Dershowitz suing CNN for defamation for an amount of $300 million. Now, in my original vlog on the subject, I said I did not see this defamation lawsuit succeeding, and I didn't even see it succeeding past a motion to dismiss. Well, CNN filed a motion to dismiss. A judgment just came down in the context of that motion to dismiss, and boy, I don't mind being wrong.
But I was wrong.
United States District Court, Southern District of Florida, case number 20-61872, Civ Singal. Alan Dershowitz, plaintiff versus Cable News Network, Inc., defendant. Order. This cause is before the court upon defendant Cable News Network's motion to dismiss. The parties have fully briefed the motion to dismiss, and the court heard argument of counsel. For the reasons set forth below, the motion to dismiss is denied. The judge in this case is one Vlawg Singal, and I would do this with any judge, so it's only fair that I do it with this judge. This judge is, in fact, a Trump-appointed judge. Anurag Vlawg Singal is a judge on the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida. He was nominated to the court by President Donald Trump, Republican, on September 9, 2019, and confirmed by the United States Senate on December 19, 2019 by a vote of 76-17. He received commission on December 20, 2019. To see a full list of judges appointed by Donald Trump, click here. So for anyone out there who wants to dismiss this judgment as being a partisan judgment rendered by a partisan judge, you can go ahead and do it. I happen to think the judgment is very well motivated, even if I did not predict this particular outcome. So with that said, let's just go over some of the highlights from the decision. It's pretty self-explanatory. We've done a number of decisions on defamation cases in the context of this channel, so there's nothing really new under the sun, but this decision is very well drafted and very well motivated.
Even if I did happen to predict the exact opposite outcome.
The judgment goes over the context and the facts. We've already done that in the context of this vlog, so we just need to go over one particular paragraph to set the stage, so to speak. Following the day's impeachment proceedings, CNN aired a clip of this argument that featured only the last sentence and omitted Dershowitz's words that a quid pro quo would be unlawful if the quo were something illegal. Dershowitz alleges that several CNN commentators responded to the truncated clip and, quote, exploded into a one-sided and false narrative that Professor Dershowitz believes and argued that as long as the president believes his re-election is in the public interest, that he could do anything at all, including illegal acts, and be immune from impeachment, end quote. The judgment then goes over some of the impugned statements from CNN. We don't really need to go over those. The judgment then goes into the legal standards for granting a motion to dismiss, and we can just go over that very briefly. To survive a motion to dismiss, quote, factual allegations must be enough to raise a right to relief above the speculative level, end quote, and must be sufficient, quote, to state a claim for relief that is plausible on its face, end quote. Quote, a claim has facial plausibility when the plaintiff pleads factual content that allows the court to draw the reasonable inference that the defendant is liable for the misconduct alleged, end quote. Quote, the mere possibility that the defendant acted unlawfully is insufficient to survive a motion to dismiss, end quote. We have seen these standards for a motion to dismiss time and time again in previous vlogs. We then get into the criteria for defamation. Now, in the context of this lawsuit, Florida law applies, and there are apparently 5 conditions to be met in order for there to be defamation, and the judge goes over that as well in one of the introductory paragraphs. The parties agree that Florida law applies to this dispute. In Florida, a defamation claim has, quote, 5 elements. 1, publication. 2, falsity. 3, actor must act with knowledge or reckless disregard as to the falsity on a matter concerning a public official, or at least negligently on a matter concerning a private person. 4, actual damages. And 5, statement must be defamatory, end quote. CNN argues that its broadcasts concerning Dershowitz's statements are protected from liability by the fair report privilege. The fair report privilege is a qualified privilege given to news media, quote, to accurately report on the information they receive from government officials, end quote. Quote, if the report of a public official proceeding is accurate or a fair abridgment, an action cannot be constitutionally maintained either for defamation or for invasion of the right of privacy, end quote. Spoiler alert, the judge does not retain the argument for fair report privilege, as if CNN could ever be guilty of fair reporting. And in a subsidiary argument, CNN goes on to raise what is now known as the Rachel Maddow defense. Next, CNN argues that its commentators offered opinions and therefore it cannot be liable for defamation. In Florida, a claim of defamation requires a false statement of fact. Statements of pure opinion are not actionable. Quote, the distinction between fact and opinion is not always easy to perceive, end quote. Quote, thus the law recognizes that some comments may be pure expressions of opinion, whereas others may be mixed expressions of opinion, end quote. A mixed opinion is one, quote, based upon facts regarding a person or his conduct that are neither stated in the publication nor assumed to exist by a party exposed to the communication, end quote. Quote, even if the speaker states the facts upon which he bases his opinion, if those facts are either incorrect or incomplete, or if his assessment of them is erroneous, the statement may still imply a false assertion of fact. Simply couching such statements in terms of opinion does not dispel these implications, end quote. This was literally the defense that Rachel Maddow raised against OANN in OANN's defamation lawsuit against her. She said, look, I was only making statements of opinion. No one listening to me would have thought that I was making statements of fact, and she was successful in that defense. Here, however, the judge does not come to that same conclusion. The court agrees. CNN presented an abridgment of Dershowitz's answer to Senator Cruz's question. The abridgment is not accurate to the extent that it omitted a crucial qualification, that an illegal motive for a quid pro quo would be corrupt. As a result, the commentator's statements that Dershowitz believes a president can do anything, even commit crimes if it would help his re-election, are not based upon a fair and accurate summary of Dershowitz's statement to the Senate. CNN argues that editors and publishers have great discretion to determine what information to publish. This is correct, but the qualified fair report privilege, quote, merely means that the report of official proceedings must be correct, end quote. By contrast, the CNN broadcast segments set forth in Dershowitz's complaint were focused specifically on Dershowitz's comments to the Senate and, as presented on air, changed the gist of what Dershowitz said. For the fair report privilege to apply, a defendant must have, quote, presented a fair and accurate report of the source documents, end quote.
The CNN broadcasts do not meet that standard.
I I honestly did not think the judge would ever get here. I am surprised that the judge did get here. Some of you out there are going to call this judge a partisan judge to allow him to get to this conclusion. Call it what you will, you can't disagree with the reasoning. I mean, you can disagree with the reasoning, but the reasoning is nonetheless grounded in law. And for those of you who have been around the channel for long enough, you know that when you leave something in the hands of a judge, you might be very unhappy with the outcome. We now have a judgment from the court of law basically saying that CNN is not fair reporting, basically saying that CNN did not meet the standard for the fair report privilege. I guess they may not be able to call themselves the most trusted name in news anymore. The judge then goes on to make some interesting distinctions between fact versus opinion. You've woken up, haven't you? Yeah. Because CNN is nonetheless going to argue that they were making utterances of opinion and therefore cannot be sued for defamation. But even when it comes to the distinction between fact and opinion, the judge has some very, very interesting things to say. Shall I take you in the house? All right, we are going to make another trade for a baby and a dog.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes. All right, we have made a trade. Winston, say hi. He smells something. What? Oh gosh. CNN's next ground for dismissal is that the allegedly defamatory statements were non-actionable opinions. CNN argues that the statements at issue were made during commentary shows about the impeachment proceedings and were, quote, rhetorical hyperbole, end quote, protected by the First Amendment. CNN argues that because the impeachment trial was widely covered by it and other media outlets, the underlying facts were, quote, known to the audience, end quote, and therefore a finding of pure opinion may still be made. The court must consider numerous factors in determining whether a comment or editorial is based upon publicly disclosed facts. These include construing, quote, the statement in its totality, end quote, considering, quote, the context in which the statement was published, end quote, and accounting for, quote, all of the circumstances surrounding the publication, including the medium by which it was disseminated and the audience to which it was published, end quote. Although some of these factors are alleged in the complaint or are available to the court at the motion to dismiss stage, other factors relating to the context or the broadcast and its audience are not before the court. This requires a more fully developed record. At this stage, the court concludes that Dershowitz's complaint meets the plausibility standard for alleging a false statement of fact. On the issue of actual malice, which has to be proven when the plaintiff is a public figure, the court ultimately comes to the conclusion that at this stage of the proceedings, Dershowitz has alleged enough to satisfy the actual malice requirement. In the present case, the court has before it only the allegations of the complaint, which must be taken as true, and the substance of the broadcasts. Dershowitz has adequately pleaded actual malice to survive the motion to dismiss. Whether the evidence adduced will ultimately satisfy Dershowitz's burden of proving actual malice by clear and convincing evidence remains to be seen, but he has alleged enough to go forward. Conclusion. For the reasons set forth above, the court finds that Dershowitz has plausibly alleged facts sufficient to withstand CNN's motion to dismiss. The court is in no way ruling on the merits of the case, but concludes merely that Dershowitz has satisfied the pleading requirements of Rule 882, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Accordingly, it is hereby ordered and adjudged that defendant's motion to dismiss is denied. It is further ordered that paragraph 14 of plaintiff's complaint is stricken pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12F1. Done and ordered in chambers, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, this 24th day of May 2021. As relates to the portion of the claim that was ordered stricken in this conclusion, it was something of an immaterial allegation of political malevolence, so that was ordered stricken, but ultimately CNN's motion to dismiss was denied and Alan Dershowitz gets to proceed to discovery in this case. So my prediction turned out to be totally wrong, and I've got to say I couldn't be happier to be wrong. I am very eager to see this proceed to discovery if it gets there and doesn't settle beforehand, because I think Alan Dershowitz is going to have a field day in discovery. Now, if you like my videos, you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm.
Tina, you fat lard, come get some dinner.
If you want to support the channel, all of the support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Patreon, subscribe to our YouTube membership. We've got merch, anti-media. Robert Barnes and I do weekly streams every Sunday. We do weekly streams with a guest every Wednesday called The Sidebar. We are also on Locals if you want to support us there and don't know where to find us. It is
VivaFrei.locals.com.
All of my content is also on Rumble, where we also do the live streams and where live chat has now been enabled for live streams. So follow me there, but more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!